Hey y'all, hey.
Hey y'all.
Welcome back to That's Right Unplugged. One of our last Unplugged episodes. I'm Crystal.
And I'm Elisa.
And we are
That's Right.
Your favorite parenting podcast.
Why? You know what? This is the second time, okay? And my sister
I couldn't
been
get it
acting
out.
up.
Because I wanted to do that to you. I could not even get it out. Look, unrehearsed. I was sitting here this whole time. So we've been talking before we pushed record. And I was like, I'm about to get her again.
Oh my gosh. She acting like me when we first started our first season, when I could not get it together. Saying everything.
Look, we go right into it. This is Unplugged. We got the real season coming up very, very, very soon. We're saying it on every episode because we want y'all to, stick around. Mm-hmm. And if you've never watched anything we've done, this ain't the real us, right? This is the Unplugged because people ask for content. And we are content creators.
Yes, we are.
Anyway, okay, so today I said favorite parenting podcast.
Oh my God.
I am so
You're going to get us in trouble. Unplugged.
Y'all
saw that shit.
My dog is here, and I need to get her. Lisa want to give her attention. I'm not giving her no attention.
Gracie wants her attention.
She thinks she's a part of this podcast.
You don't have no choice but to give her attention.
Anyway, we talking a little bit of parenting. We ain't gonna run too long. We don't do too long on Unplugged. Get in and get out. How y'all doing?
Hey y'all.
So, we are parents of adults most, but at least y'all little kids.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Ooh.
Adults and little kids.
That's right. We can talk about this.
Definitely so. Definitely so.
So my youngest child is 14, and she's my bonus baby. So she lives full time with her mommy, and she stays with us on every other weekend or whatever. So I don't necessarily have these issues, but so if y'all have watched any episode of That's Right, or even talked to me, I'm mom on a trillion. Like, I'm a mama. So my kids are amazing. They're all adults. My biological children that I raised from birth are ages 24, 21, and 20. And so they were raised, just kind of the way that I raised my children, and they are all just amazing human beings, God-fearing, great citizens, love people, love themselves, love God. It's amazing. So a lot of people who are close to me, who were around when I was raising them, are like, hey, I kind of want to do exactly what you did. I want to, whatever, but my child is wilding out. So I'm just like, a lot of times it goes back to me for social media. And I know I didn't have to raise my children in no social media age. Mm-hmm. By the time social media was popping the way it is, my kids were like 13. My youngest child was about 12. And so they couldn't have social media. And so now I will say that my middle son, Chris, snuck and got a social media, had a little Instagram account. He was talking crazy to somebody on the Instagram account. Who didn't lose it? I lost it, and I made him apologize and everything because we don't play that. And but this is why we don't have social media, because you don't know how to conduct yourself. And he was about 14. You don't know how to conduct, or maybe 13, but you don't know how to conduct yourself to have a social media account. And then people don't know, at that age, if there's bullying or whatever, that's how people lose their lives. And that's kind of what I taught my kids. And when I saw my son trying to be, funny for laughs or whatever, I was like, yo, and when somebody killed themselves because you weren't here trying to be funny, then what? Because you're not calculating that thought process, at 13. You're like, oh my goodness, I'm trying to get the laughs, and you're not thinking about someone having, being suicidal. And so, as far as I know, he didn't get it, and again, he didn't get caught. But I was a mom who checked phones. I checked phones up until 18.
Oh, wow.
I checked phones up until 18. Weekly, hand me your phone, hand me your phone, hand me your phone. And so, and I've baby, I've seen some things on their phone. So my kids were not perfect. They are wonderful adults.
Yes.
Because of the way that they were parented, because of the way that I checked things as soon as I found them out, because the way that I prayed, right? And because the way that my husband comes in, like, in marriages, everybody has their role. So I do more of the hands-on parenting. But baby, if there was a problem, your daddy need to talk to you. If it got so bad that I was, you need to go talk to your kids, right? So they have just a well-rounded life, but I was not battling social media. Like a couple people recently, and I'm not going to say who they are, a couple people close to me have come to me with some issues, and they're like, my child is doing this, my child is talking back, and my child is whatever. And I did, like my daughter, who is now 20, when she was about 11, 12, she ain't never talked back because I knock her teeth out. I don't believe in corporal punishment, would never hit my children, but I ain't play the radio.
Absolutely.
And so I was the mama who could be like, 1, 2.
Yeah.
If I got to 3, because they weren't defiant like that, right? You know what I'm saying? So I could shut them down with a look, or shut them down with that 1, 2, or whatever. It didn't take a lot. So she wouldn't like talk back, but she would have an attitude. And so I used to just be like your attitude is going to get you nowhere. And so every time she would get one, I'm just like, you're never going to be able to make it in this world with an attitude that nasty. And so by 13, I think was gone. Ain't never came back. You ain't never seen Kennedy with no attitude, have you?
Never.
Baby, that thing
Never.
Used to be bad.
And I can't even believe you.
When I tell you attitude, and she didn't talk back, but she would just be nasty. And I'm just like, okay, got it. You're going to have a world of trouble in your life if you continue on with this nastiness. But I have people in my life who have children, young girls or whatever, younger than 11, just with bad attitudes, misbehaving or whatever, and just very entitled. And I feel a lot of it traces back, what you about to say?
And
social media.
I think that's where I'm going. So do you think that this traces back to social media?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I don't think Kennedy's did. I think Kennedy was an 11-year-old girl, because 11-year-old girl is going 11-year-old girl. But I think now, like one little girl is like, oh, I have to have this and I have to have that. And it's like, you don't have really wealthy parents, but it's just like you turn your nose up to things that your parents are trying to do. Let me tell you a thing or two. You wouldn't get another thing in my house, because I don't play the radio. But what I say to people who are struggling with that is cut out that social media. Because when my kids were growing up, the comparisons, because kids are going to make comparisons, the comparisons that they had were the kids at their school, the kids in their neighborhood. So little Johnny up the street might have the newest video game and you might not have it. Or somebody at school may have something that you don't have. But we're all in the same neighborhood, so we're all in the same socioeconomic group, right? So you are not looking at someone generally who at 15, I mean, this was my kid's kind of life, but in some situations, you're not looking at someone who is, you got a video game and this person got a Lamborghini. That didn't happen in your neighborhood. But because of social media, and because you feel like you know people on social media and you can relate to them on social media, now your child who is living in, lower middle class area, you guys are doing okay, is comparing herself to somebody in Beverly Hills. Who has a driver and gets to wear makeup to school at 10 and gets to, you're getting on your yacht and you're on your private jet, and that's the life that your 8-year-old wants to live, and you're going to work with your 4-year degree making $80,000 a year, and it's like, we're going to take this Southwest flight down to to Disney World, right? You know what I mean? Like, that's your life, but then your child has her arms folded because, why can't I have my party on a yacht? I'll punch you in the head. Hands down. Like, but that's what I'm hearing. And I'm just like, get your kids off social media. I am an excellent mother. But also as well, it doesn't take excellent parenting to just be like, yo, stop comparing yourself to that. That's not your life. And so you think adults are ruined by social media and trying to, compare, and I'm looking at so-and-so on Facebook or so-and-so on Instagram or TikTok and look at everything they have, and now I'm jealous. Kids are developing those same things at a very, very young age, and it could be motivating, right? Like, oh, this is what I want to be when I grow up. I want to be able to get a yacht. I want to be able to do these things. I'm going to work really hard. In a lot of people's situations, that's not what's happening. The parents are stressed because you have a good parent who wants to do for their child, and this child is now giving you her butt to kiss at her birthday party because you got the princess to come to her birthday party instead of going and renting out a castle. You know what I'm saying? And so I just feel like sometimes, like, you're trying to be so liked, and maybe this isn't the situation, but sometimes you want to be so liked by the child that you don't institute parameters. And so, like, if I was just talking to my son about this the other day, like, if I was raising a kid heavy in the social media age, I'm not going to say you can't have social media. I am going to lock that thing down. And the minute you come to me and try to compare your situation to Katie's situation over in Beverly Hills, there will be a problem. And I'm serious. I remember when Kennedy, God bless Kennedy's grown up. When I tell you, I was very intentioned in making sure my children were appreciative and, you know, dealt with people with grace and mercy. Like, I just wanted them to be good citizens. And that's what I told them all the time. Like, it is my job. Nobody else has this job. It is my job to make sure that you have good, you know, you're a good person to people. She's 4 years old. My kids, Christmas was big in my house, so I got them everything they wanted. I gave them, I said, you can give me the 5 things that you say, Mom, I cannot live without this. And that was the thing that I did every year. Like, my life would be over if I don't have this. And I allowed them to do that for 5, whatever they wanted to do. And they can give me one big gift. No matter the cost, this is, Mom, I really, really want this. And I would always get it. And then I would add to those gifts with the things that I wanted them to have. So it was a big deal in our house. So one year, Kennedy was 4. She gets everything she asked for because they always did. And one day I'm walking out of my house, they're on Christmas break, my mom's there, and I'm headed to work. And she says, I was like, something, 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 all these toys. And she was like, I didn't get that much stuff. I said, what? She was like, this isn't a lot of stuff. Let me tell you, the parents I am. I did not smack her into the middle of the next week. What I did do, however, was pack up all that stuff, put it in my car, and say, I'm going to go and give it to a little girl who's grateful, right? Because the energy with which she was saying it was like, this is nothing, right? And so, and she was 4. Wow. And I had worked, and she had gotten everything she asked for and then some. So it wasn't like, it was wild to me. So I packed up all that stuff. My mom called me at work. She was like, Crystal, please bring that girl stuff back. Please. She keeps crying and saying, if Mommy gonna give my stuff to another little girl. And I was just like, I don't know that I'm gonna bring it back. Because what you're not gonna do, I come to work every day. You're on winter vacation, and I have to go to work to make sure that I can provide for you, to make sure that I can pay for our spring break trip that's coming up, right? Like, I am working hard, and at this time, like, I was a single mom. I'm working hard to make sure that I can give you a good life. And you're like, it wasn't all that. It ain't all that. Oh, baby, she learned that day. She learned that day. So I did. I took the stuff home because she was 4.
Okay, lesson learned. Lesson learned.
I did. But she had to go all day. She didn't know what I was going to do, right? Yeah. So she had to go all day, not knowing if the stuff that she really wanted was coming back home. And I did. I set her down, and I talked to her before I left, but I still took the stuff because I don't got time. I'm not the one or the two, and you're gonna learn today. So I took it back home. We had a conversation. You think I've ever had a problem of Kennedy being unappreciative again?
Nope. I believe not. 4
years old, taught her a lesson. I taught her a very, very valuable lesson at 4. Have never had that problem again. Have never, kids, MJ, Chris, I have not had problems with them not appreciating things because you learned a lesson at 4 years old. You saw your sister get her stuff taken away. And even though she got it back, she knew not to cross the line again. Like, she didn't say, oh, my mom is just going to bring that stuff back. She was like, oh my God. And so, and then they want to give, they want to make sure that other people have, and I don't need to be Kennedy's friend, right? Like, it was the first time she'd been unappreciative, so I could give her those things back, but I wanted to teach a lesson and teach it very, very early, right? And so what I find is when people ask me about these things, I'm like, how are you controlling? Because it does. Every issue I have with parenting is like, my kid is talking back, my kid is being rebellious, my kid doesn't want to do what I want to do. And I'm like, because you have these 8-year-old TikTok personalities, you know, yelling at their parents, telling them what they're going to do. And it's, oh my God, that's so cute. She's so grown. Oh, she's been here before. So now your 5-year-old, your 8-year-old, your 11-year-old wants to talk like that and do that to you. And you're like, well, what do I do? Turn that stuff off. If you cannot tell your child or teach your child that this is all make-believe, this is as if someone is on television. Like, you don't believe that, you know, the Little Mermaid is actually real. I don't want you thinking that Katie in Beverly Hills is actually real. That is, you have to implant in them that this is all fantasy and fairy tale to bring in little girls and little boys just like you. So we're going to treat this just like we treat Rapunzel. Right? Like, you're not throwing your hair outside. You're not expecting that you can throw your hair outside to do anything. You should not expect that this will be your life, because this is all make-believe. If you can't get a grasp and help your children learn that social media is all make-believe, take them off social media. You can't, and they may kick and scream because this is something that they're used to, But you have to teach them a lesson. You can't be afraid to parent. You can't be afraid because you're wanting so much for your child to like you. And that's what it boils down to. It really does. There's no other reason not to parent and not to implement like limits for your children other than you're trying to be a cool parent.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to tell you what I never was. Cool parent.
Cool parent.
Let me say what I was. I was a pretty mom. I was the mom who was going to be at your school all the time. But I was also the mom who was going to make you do homework in the summer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was at I went to see my daddy. Y'all see I got a new car. So I went to show my daddy my new car the other day. And one time when Kennedy, the kids were like 6 or 7 or what, little. And they had spent the weekend at my dad's house, and his wife and her daughters babysat them. And when I was at the house, she brought this up. She was like, Kennedy was like 5 years old studying SAT words in the summer. And this girl was in high school. And she was like, I was not studying SAT words. I did not play the radio about my children. It was very important to me that they knew SAT words and knew all the etymology. It was important to me that they knew that they could, I wanted them to be able to compete. So I did that on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the mom I was. But I was also the mom, if you say, hey, I want to go wrestling, I'm going to find wrestling for you. Hey, I want to play basketball, I'm going to find basketball for you. Like, I was doing all of that stuff. But I also think that's part of parenting. Mm-hmm. I think letting your children do some of the things that they want to do within reason, that's parenting. But I ain't never tried to be my children's friend.
Yeah.
Not. Chris will tell you today I'm his best friend. I look at him like, get a friend. I'm not your best friend. Anyway, I'm going to pass it to Lisa. I've been talking 16 minutes and 32 seconds.
And that is totally fine. If y'all watch Kristen and Lisa, y'all know Kristen and Lisa, y'all know my sister gonna talk. Period. They gonna talk. No, I agree with you, sis.
You let the boys do social media? So I let them do social media, but I just want to rewind it back before we even get to social media. I don't know that I really think that a lot of problem comes from social media. I think in terms of when you're talking about kids' attitudes, whether it's male or female, I feel like the kids, this generation and this day and age has a sense of entitlement just in general. Oh yeah.
And sometimes we get caught up in just spoiling our kids so much to where they have adapted this sense of entitlement. So by the time you go and you say no, then you get this attitude and stuff. And so even
where do you think it comes from?
Being spoiled, or getting everything. And
why do you think we spoil our kids?
I think some people spoil their kids without knowing it. I think a lot of people want to try to give their kids what they never had, and
that's fair.
And so and if you have it, it's kind of hard to kind of juggle between yes and no. Especially when you have the money to provide, but then you start realizing it once it's like, okay, you see how it's affecting them, then you want to try to take control.
Right.
But I do think that some of those actions can be because kids are spoiled. But I do think that social media does play a big factor in how it influences kids and how they act. I think that because of social media, you can, like you said, you can check out the celebrity kids around your age, who, once they turn 16, they might, for their gift, might have a darn Lamborghini. And then all of a sudden, it's like, because they can do it, I should be able to. So I think there's a high level of influence and impact when it comes to social media. When I was growing up, honestly, of course, we didn't have social media when we were growing up. But my parents were very, very strict. Like, even when I was 16, 17, there were certain things that I couldn't even watch. If it was rated R, like Boys in the Hood. At that age, when I was growing up, I couldn't watch that because it was killing. It was really what was going on in reality in the hood.
Right. And you from California?
And I come from California, but they held me from watching certain things. And I remember when I was younger, probably about 16, 17. I was listening to Snoop Dogg. I was listening to he had the Doggy Style album. I was bumping.
Cheryl was not having it.
Okay, Cheryl was not home, but Larry was. And I wasn't even cognizant enough in my mind to know what I was listening to turn it down. It's like my daddy's in the house, anything. And if anybody knows that album, Snoop Doggy Doggy Style album, it was crucial. And I'm just bumping, going. My daddy came down there he was like, I cannot believe my daughter is listening to that, took that CD out and broke it. And I'm just saying that to say, like, the world that we live in now, it's that constantly. Like, it's, you know what I'm saying? It's, you can't run from society the way the world is.
Right.
And so in terms of kids, like, I know social media is what it is. You can think of it being positive, or you can think of it being negative. It's all in the parent and what you do and how you want to raise your kids and what you want to teach your kids in the world of social media, because you're not going to be able to run from it. In my opinion, I feel like with social media is just like stepping outside and walking outside, and whatever you see on social media, you're going to see outside. You turn on the Disney Channel, whatever you see on social media, you're going to see, you know, even on the Disney Channel. So it's kind of hard to hide whatever it is, the influence or the impact. It's hard to hide it. So really, it's, what are you going to do as a parent? You know, how are you going to regulate it? How are you going to teach your kids what's right and what's wrong? So I have, I have 4 kids, but we know my oldest is 20, my second oldest is 19. So my younger 2, which is 12 and 9, they have phones and they're on social media. You know, they're on Instagram, TikTok. They get a lot of information on TikTok. But I do hear sometimes where it might get a little reckless, where, you know, you're hearing a little cussing and you're hearing just negative things. So, you know, in those moments, in those times, because your kids are going to be privy to this anyway. They can step out and they can go to school, middle school, high school. You're going to hear the cussing. You're going to hear all of it. So you really can't shy. You can't run from it. So in those moments, you know, it's either they're not allowed to, you know, listen to any
they can't listen
profanity or anything around the house. What they do outside the house, I know that they're hearing profanity. Sometimes my kids can be outside playing basketball with the neighborhood friends, and I hear words, you know, coming out. And if I hear it too much, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna go and regulate. But it's like, you can't run from social media. So the best thing that I could do, or you know, that you could do really, is just try to regulate it and just try to teach your kids, you know, Christ, what's right and what's wrong. But I do allow social media in the house because even with us, you know, like growing up, you know, that it also it's a good mechanism in terms of marketing. You know, like whatever it is you're trying to do positively, it still is a good source to have and a good source to use. And sometimes, honestly, with my kids, they're coming back telling me all kinds of stuff that I don't even know what's going on. You know, Mama, did you know that
like current events?
Yeah, thank you. Telling me current events and everything. So for me, I feel like my kids are using social media wisely. I think that it could be productive to them to a certain extent. Even with like to say current events, things that's going on, legislations and things like that, they'll come tell me what's going on. And,
are you checking their phones? Are you like checking their social media?
So for me, you know, I think it takes a village. So I'm the one that I'll talk to them about different things, but I'm not a privacy invader too much. But they do there's a system. So the fathers, they do go in and they do random checks and things like that. So I guess it's just a balance between the household. But if I suspect something, then I would more so than anything. But I don't do any random checks. Like I said, I don't really privacy invade unless I feel like there's something suspicious going on for the most part. But again, with social media, it could be a bad thing. It can definitely influence you in the wrong way. I feel like for a parent, though, it's just all in how you're raising your kids, what you're teaching your kids, how you're training them, whatnot, on how to maneuver in this world, because social media is not going away. I think it's only going to get worse. And for me, I feel that way. Sometimes it comes and it deals with how you're raised. So for me, growing up, being my father was in the military, so we traveled a lot. And like I said, my parents kind of shot me away from a lot of different things. I lived in fairy tale world, like nothing. I didn't realize how the world really was, reality of world, until probably I got 18, 19 and kind of stepped out the house. But other than that, everything was shied away from me. Whatever I wanted, I got, you know. murders and kills and all the extra stuff, I didn't hear about it. News, I didn't really know. So for me, I feel like I need my kids to know what's going on in this world. I want them to see the reality and understand the reality of things and know that this world is not a fairy tale.
Right.
You know, you need to make sure you watch your back. You need to be observative. You got crime. You got pedophiles.
You think they need to see that via social media, or you think they need to see that via using methods that you can control?
I think that social media is relevant for those purposes, so that it gives them a eye awakener to be able to be more observative, you know, in certain situations. So I think I will use social media in that aspect of just being more self-conscious of what's going out in this world, so you can be on your P's and Q's. You know,
I think that's interesting. So, like, even with the privacy thing, like, so my kids knew I was going to take their phones. You know what I'm saying? They just didn't know when. So it wasn't even like we did it like on a Friday at 5, because obviously you're going to delete some stuff. And be clear, like, I'm an excellent mother. I have my kids.
Very much so.
They so amazing, dog. But so. I have gotten those phones and seen some things, like, I've seen porn on a 15-year-old's phone before.
And that's
right?
Very much,
and I'm
very
like,
much possible.
And Dad is like, I mean, and the terms that he's searching, I'm like, what? Why?
But you know what? And I don't want to cut you off. And I think you should go on with that point. Go ahead. And we're saying social media, but at 15,
it's internet anyway.
It's internet and it's society.
No,
in middle school, you have girls that are like, meet me in the bathroom, meet me in the stall, you know. So it's like, okay, now that she's asking me to meet me in the stall, what does that mean?
Do I do?
So let me go look this up on Google or social, whatever, you know. So go ahead, though.
That's real. That's real. And so, like, having seen like the stuff, it's just like on the internet, and I'm just remember when I first saw it, I cried. I was so upset. I'm like, I raised my children in the fear of the Lord. Right? No, for real.
I believe you.
My husband was like, yo, he a 15-year-old boy. And I was like, who loves God? Right. Lisa, I was so messed. I cried. I was so messed up because I really felt like they was above that whole time. He's a 15-year-old boy. And it's crazy because, like, I was a great mother. I really was, right? And so, I am a great mother, but when they were growing up, I was. But, like, even, you know, I sent my son to L.A. when he turned 18 to pursue his dreams. He got cut up with some stuff. And I won't say it on this podcast because that's his story to tell. But he got caught up in some stuff. And so I'm just like, I have raised you. Yes. Right. Yes. And I'm going off like, you have and one time, okay, cool. This brother calling me another time. I'm like, what is your problem? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm on fire, I'm hot because I've raised you better than this. But it's so beautiful because you can only give them what you can give them. And I know that, right? But I say all that to say, like, even at 18, 19, when you're making your mistakes, you're 24. And that fear of the Lord is there. Like, you're 24 and you're talking to me about your girlfriend that you know you think you're gonna marry. I think you're gonna marry. She's great. And he's just like, but I'm like, do you guys spend the night together? I mean, he's 24. He lives in New York. He's doing his thing. You spend the night with a girl? I guess you spend the night with women. Like, I don't know. For a bag. No, I'm just kidding. But I asked him that the other day. I was like, yo, we was talking about like marriage and stuff like that. He was just like, you know, I want to get some things together before I get married. And that's the beauty of being able to have a choice. Being able to not be 24 and sexually active.
Being cautious.
Right. Yes. And so he's like, I'm not having sex because I ain't ready to have no babies. He loves the Lord, fears the Lord. But it's also like, I am not in a position where I can have a family right now, right? And so I asked him, I said, are y'all spending the night together? He was like, no. He said, we have before, Mom. I'll be honest. He's like, it's my son because he's great. He's like, I still got my B card.
I love it.
But no, we spent the night together. He was like, but you know, the Lord kind of talked to me about it. That's too much temptation. And so he was like, so we don't do that anymore. But it's beautiful to see, like, okay, you made some mistakes at 18, 19. Here you are, 25. You know, raise up the child in the way he should go. And when he is old, he would never depart from it, right? Like, at 25, you were clinging on to the Lord. At 25, you want to be a godly man. Or 24, you want to be a godly man. And so, you know, if you if you raise your kids and you raise them well, and you're running into little hiccups,
you will,
like,
and you will,
you're gonna run into the big hiccups. But God is still very good, right? And so they're gonna the things that you implanted in them, and I see that the things that I implanted in my children are really like they have those things.
Yes,
you know, they did not just even when I was like, what have you done? You know better than this. But just look. Experience is the best teacher.
Yes.
So I can all day, every day scream, God, 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 scream like I made these mistakes so you don't have to, because Lord knows I knew the Lord. Now I'm pregnant at 20. So, but I made mistakes so you don't have to, and you're going to make your own mistakes, right? Like, so you have to know your own God. And sometimes God has to see you through a thing in order for you to know him in that manner. You don't get to know the God that your mother talked about, you know, throughout your youth or whatever. So that's that's my little take on social media parenting.
That's funny. So
Girl,
like,
MJ was putting me through.
Oh my God. It's so funny how you do so much to raise your kids. You pour so much into them, but sometimes even whatever it is that you're doing to raise your kids, you might be doing right, but your kids might not turn out exactly how you raise them and how you want them to be. You know, they grow older and they have their own sense of style, their own personality. Like the things that you raise them, it's embedded in them, but sometimes your kids don't turn out how you want them to be.
Let me tell you something. I disagree. I agree to disagree. I believe you have the children you raised.
Okay.
Period.
Okay.
So you may think, well, I said all these things or whatever. They are paying attention to what you did.
Yes.
And so you might have sent them to the right schools, but if I will die on this hill. You have the kids you raised. So people trying to be like, oh, they grown, they should know better. Did you teach them better when they was little, when they was 4, throwing a temper tantrum, acting like they were so entitled and nothing was good enough? Did you take their stuff away? Like, you have the children you raised. And so I know people very, very close to me in my intimate circle who are disappointed in their kids, and I can point to, I was there when you were doing this. I was there, and I don't say this to people because, you know, not judgment. But I'm just like, no, like you're blaming this child, who is now an adult, on the way that he or she turned out, and you're like, I was a good parent. I did blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, nah, like, even if that looks like not being there for them, even if that looks like not giving them space to explore who they are, because that is a thing that I did. You know, we have the safe space. You can tell me, hey, mom, like, I know you said this, but I want to do that. And sometimes it's going to be between you and God. Yeah. But you don't get to say, oh, and I think that people use it as a cop-out. I do. I think parents whose kids did not turn out the way they imagine, or is not as successful as what they want them to be, often are like, well, I mean, I did my job, but did you? I'm confused. But did you? You know, I mean, I believe that, yes, people are going to be their own people, but kids are going to be their own people when they grow up. Yes. But it's literally based on the influence. And if you let their friends, if you let social media, if you let the internet or television or teachers or whatever be their number one influence, guess what? They're going to be their number one influence. And that still goes back to your parenting. Well,
now I agree to disagree.
Okay.
Okay. Because I've known someone who was raised by mother and father, stayed together, very, very good background. Mother and father both were professional, had money. The child was very smart, very educated, went to college. But once they left home and got with someone, they got sprung out.
Like drugs?
Yeah, they went and started messing with the wrong people, and start going into the wrong direction. In that situation, I wouldn't say that it's because it's because of your parents. It's because of how your parents raised you. Because in this situation, she had the world. Like, everything was not given to her, but she was very smart. You know, she was in the books. They made sure that they groomed her very well. But by the time she left the house and she got into the real world, and I'm not sure if things like my situation was kept from her and she was naive, but parents gave her everything. They had money. She went to college, very smart, ended up getting into the wrong crowd, messing with the wrong person, and ended up on drugs. How do you explain that?
nothing that you have said changes my mind. Because I believe that you choose friends and you do all of that based on how you were raised, and that's just real. And I think that is just real. I think that, like, for instance, be it intentional or unintentional. So her having the world doesn't mean that her parent, that she did not learn things based on how she was raised, right? So like me, I was raised in the church. My mama told me don't have sex. My mama told me don't have no babies. My mama had babies young, and she talked to me about not having babies or whatever. But she didn't make it open for me to come and talk to her about if I wanted to have sex, what birth control looked like, any of that. So I was raised in a place where I'm still going to be a 20-year-old girl, right? Like, I'm still going to be attracted to men. I'm still going to have normal sexual desires. That's a real thing that happens to people. I was raised without knowing how to deal with those things. Because my mom was very much like, you don't have sex again. What are we talking about?
Yes.
There was no birth control. There was no, if I put you on birth control, you're going to think it's okay to have sex. So now I'm 18, I can't talk to my mama because of the way I was raised. I can't talk to my mom. I wasn't talking to none of my friends. I mean, I talked to my friends about it. My friends my age. Yeah, girl, oh my God, you a woman now.
You can do it.
All that stuff. Because I'm talking to a bunch of 18-year-olds. You know what I'm saying? And so if my mom had opened the door for me and said there will be no judgment, there we can have a safe space, you can, whatever, to explore. You may have these feelings. Because of how I was raised, I may not have been pregnant at 20 because I'm not going to say I wouldn't have had sex, but I might have gotten on birth control, done the things that were necessary to do. That wasn't my story. And so because I was raised that way, and I know that my mom did not make it easy for me to go to her and tell her that I was having these sexual desires, I did that for Kennedy. Before she went to school, I was like, look, you grown. Like, you're 18. You are a grown woman. So I know that I raised you in the fear of the Lord, but this is a you and God thing now. Like, I'm not going to punish you if you start having sex. Like, this is between you and God. But I talked to her about what that looks like, and you may have feelings. I'm like, you might get with a dude that you're really into. I talked to her about plan B. You know, you're into, and you're like, okay, I'm going to, have sex. You need to not be afraid to call me and figure out what happens, because I'm okay with that. Like, I am okay with you being an adult and you having to work out your salvation in your life with God. I want to make sure that you are safe. I want to make sure that you make good decisions, right? So the same way you could come to me about projects being due and friendship and cheerleading, you can come to me about this. Now, I'm not, again, we talked about, I ain't about to teach you how to have sex. That ain't my ministry. But you can come to me and talk to me and say, hey, I'm into this guy. You know, what do I do? Okay, well, I think you should make sure that y'all are tested first. I think that you should make sure that if y'all break up, how do you feel? Like, Kennedy and I talk about all of that. When you start having sex with someone, what that looks like, what that feels like, how that changes the dynamic of the relationship and the dynamic of who you are. Yes. And I want you to consider that. Not so that you shouldn't have sex, look how bad it is, but make sure that you know that these things are possible
what you're getting yourself
because of the way she was raised. And so the mistakes in my life, I will say, I did not have freedom to make mistakes. I did not have freedom to sin, like, because everything was like a big sin. And so I'm out here just doing it because of the way I was. And I don't feel like I had a bad upbringing, but I feel like everybody loved me. It's so funny. I feel like everybody loved me. I was talking to my therapist the other day, and we were talking about love and what it feels like, and why I have some of the feelings I have. And I was thinking about it, and I talked to my older brother about just the way we grew up, and I came back there. I was like, the issue was I was loved so much. I know what love feels like.
Okay, I'm gonna go back to my spoiled thing too.
I was, and that's what she said. I was like, everybody was like, well, Crystal said, well, Crystal's doing, and everybody supported. My parents supported everything I wanted to do. My dad loved me so much. We did things together as a father and daughter. He taught me. He is the first man I ever loved, the first man to ever love me. So I know what love feels like, what it looks like, what it sounds like. And so, but I got that from the house. So I don't say that, I had a horrible upbringing. I just feel like my mom, and trying to make sure that my destiny did not end up like hers, was like, no sex. And I feel like maybe that's appropriate at 10, 12, 14, 15. But when I went to college, you should have had a conversation with me. and maybe even before then, but the conversation should have been had. And I've done, like I said, I've done that with my kids. I've done that with my boys.
Yep.
Dad has talked to the boys. You know, my husband has talked to the boys about what it, even the porn thing.
Yeah.
I was so upset. And he went to my son and was like, yo, I don't want you watching this simply because this is not real sex. You're going to have an expectation based on watching this that's unreal.
I like
and
that.
so that's what he explained to him about porn, is that like it's gonna mess up sex for you if this is your first time that you've been engaged with it. You know what I mean? And so yeah, so all that said, agree to disagree. I believe good and bad. I believe that you are the person you're raised. Like Kennedy, I got so much to say about this subject. Kennedy just started dating, y'all.
So do you want to start this? Well,
she is 20.
Oh my god.
And she really just, like, she's been on a couple dates before, but she just started dating someone. She really likes college dating or whatever, and something happened, and she was like, yo, I don't like him no more. 2 days in.
2 days.
I was like, ooh. And she said, and
Fierce.
this guy was great. I'm not, like, he was, the things that she was telling me about this guy, he was great to her. He was just a gentleman. But Kennedy has a standard, and she was just like, yo, this is what my dad taught me. I should be treated this way. And I went to tell it was so funny because I went to tell Chris about this dude. I was like, oh my God, I was here with this dude, did for Kennedy. And he was on the phone. He was just like, yo, Kennedy called me about that. He did the bare minimum. Y'all don't need to get hype about the bare minimum. And then I felt embarrassed because when I look at it, it really was a bare minimum. But I know that so many people
We're looking at the age bracket
are
too,
experiencing it. But Chris and Jay, my kids, are wonderful boyfriends. So they are the boyfriends who bring you roses to you and your mom on the first date. Like, they are those children. So Chris is like, he ain't even bringing no roses. Just like, his daddy ain't teaching him to bring no roses. Please relax. You know what I mean? But whatever the case is, Kennedy she is a product of how she was raised. And so while I'm a little frustrated about some things, I'm just like, this is how this girl was raised. This is on her father, not me. But this is she has a standard, she has an expectation because of the way that she watched her father raise her brothers to be men. She has an expectation that because my sons are amazing men. She has an expectation of having a man like the man that she sees her father, the way she sees her father treat me, the way she sees her brothers treat women, that's her expectation. Whole time I'm a woman, I'm like, boo. I just want some grandkids. You want to give up on some of this stuff, boo. And she like, no, I don't. As long as my brothers are alive and out here doing it, I ain't got to do that. It goes back to how you were raised, good and bad.
Yeah.
So that's my 14 cents.
Your 14 cents.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's all in timing too, and when you should be able to communicate with your kids, whatever level that they're on. So of course, like you're talking about Kennedy, she's in college, so it's time to start having these real conversations.
Yes.
Especially once your kids start opening up to you and start asking questions, and that you have an inkling that they might be sexually active. It's time to start talking to your kids.
Yeah, and ask the embarrassing questions.
Ask the embarrassing questions and be open to whatever it is that you're going to receive.
Yeah, that part
right there. Because like even for me with the Maya and Elijah, like I always, for me, it's like I always not plan for the worst, but
you say he's screwing in the back of the car.
Yeah, like
screwing. How old am I?
I never really wanted to mentally be shocked about anything because I always tried to coincide with the world and the society that we're in and understand that things may be possible. So if they're in middle school and kids are kissing in middle school or doing whatever in middle school, what am I to think that my child is not privy to it or won't do that? So things. To me, I prep my mind to not be so much in shock. However, of course, I prep myself or train my kids in those situations because I know that it was possible, right? Like, so I never was naive to think that my kids wasn't capable of doing anything. So at 15, if it's going down, then we have enough conversations at 15, or whatever. Even if it's 12, and I hear some things at your school, your middle school, and I've heard some things. So it's like, so what you think about? I am crying and I'm educating, just to see where they are,
Yeah.
But yeah. So,
because we ain't trying to be our kids' friends.
No.
You don't want to ask your client. Look, Kennedy came from that first date with that dude. I said, did y'all kiss?
First thing.
Because I'd like to know, right? Like, he tried to touch your booty. I want to know. You know, she's like, Mom, no, I did not kiss him. You know what I'm saying? She's like, we hugged at the end of the date. Like, I'm not. Second date, what did y'all do? Nope, I like him a lot. We're not doing none of that. Okay. You know, and I told her, she's 20, so I don't want to pry too much.
Yeah.
But I have asked the embarrassing questions to my children.
You have to.
But you have to. You know what I mean? And so, and it's like, okay, I'm prepared. And let me say this, you better woman than I ever will be. Because I never prepare myself for the worst. I'm like, y'all better fear the Lord. You know, as a young child, you know? But like now, and shit, let me tell you something. Y'all know we do the safe space at my family. We do the safe space even as adults. And so every time MJ calls me for a safe space now, I'll be like, oh my God, please don't let that girl be pregnant. And I tell him that every time. He's like, Mom, I keep telling you we are not having sex. I'm just like, baby, I believe you, but you know, maybe you're lying. But I always am like, just don't let her be pregnant, Lord.
You're right. You just go ahead and just start preparing your mind that it's a possibility any day now. Something could possibly happen.
The whole time I want a grandchild. Let me tell you something. Let me be very real on this podcast. I just want my children. I want them to have a good life. I want them to be with one person. That is my dream because I'm a stepmama, and it's great. I love them, but y'all know there was a transition. I don't want my kids to. I don't want that to be their life. I don't want you to have waited this long to engage in sex, and then you do it, and now it's a whole situation. I just want you to have a good family, great, whatever. That's it.
Period. Amen to that.
If MJ was to call me and tell me that he got that girl pregnant, the excitement that would go through my body. Not because my child got somebody pregnant. I want a grandchild.
You do it, yes. That's what I'm saying. You kind of manifesting it, so
it's not going to manifest because God sits high and looks low. And
that's true. That's true.
I don't say that I want him to have. I don't want him to have that. Yeah, but if he did, I'm not going to be like, oh my God, I'm just owning you. I'm going to be like, oh, hello, baby Dior, right? Like I am going.
No, you're not giving that child a name before.
No, the clothing.
Oh, okay.
No, the way I'm going to be in Chanel and Louis buying this baby clothes, the way I'm going to open a practice in New York so I can be there for my child.
Oh my gosh, wow. So would you set higher expectations? I see the time says, but would you set higher expectations if he was to call you out of wedlock and say that he had a child?
Well, that's what I'm describing right now. So if he were to call me today and be like, Mom, I've not been honest this whole time. Me and this girl are having a baby. I would be like, MJ, well, God's gonna take care of you because he does, right? Like that's still your daddy. Okay. He is gonna take care of you. Now give me the due date. I'm trying to plan when I didn't take this New York bar so I can be up there practicing and raising my grandchild. Let me tell you a thing or two. The way that I would be like, okay, now the baby shower. Okay.
Oh gosh, MJ, y'all. Oh gosh, wait. Let's take some more time with this.
The way that I would
be like you planning your own wedding. You cannot take over.
The way that I would be like, okay, where are y'all planning to live? Like the way I would set my son up. Because what he's not gonna do is, as long as I am his mother and I am capable of caring for him and a child, is have to struggle. That baby ain't gonna never have to struggle.
I already know.
And so, all that said to say, MJ, please, hold on to marriage. Hold on till you get into your career. But in the event you don't, he's 24. He's 24. He's 24. Right. Grown man. He is a good guy. He's been with this girl. He is a good man. He is a godly man. That's why I don't think it's gonna happen because his mama can talk trash all she wants to. I don't think it's gonna happen. We talk about it. He and I talk about it a lot. And so I don't think he'll do it out of wedlock just because he wants to be a good father. My dog's going crazy. And we done went off on a tangent real fast.
Don't let social media influence you at the end of the day, guys. And parents, just make sure that you monitor your kids.
Yes, and make sure. Oh my God, my dog is losing her brain. Anyway, I really have been trying to ignore her this whole podcast.
We're at 48 minutes.
We did it.
Oh, that's crazy.
Okay, y'all. Well, we sure appreciate y'all for joining us and listening to us talk about our children, talk about our parenting techniques, at least on her phone. This is
Unplugged.
But we are filming the real stuff next week, and we just appreciate y'all for rocking with us.
We do.
We love y'all.
Thank you, guys.
See y'all later.
Peace.